What's going on, guys? So I picked up a new ultralight setup, so we are going to test it and kind of do a first impression review of it today. So that is the Kuying Teton. It is a Hong Kong brand, so I had to order this all the way from Hong Kong. It's not really sold in the US. There's a few vendors you can find it from, but this is going to be a 6-foot rod, like I mentioned, ultralight power. It's rated for between 1 and 4 gram lures, so that's pretty small. The main reason I got this was really just to throw these tiny little trout magnets, just something a little bit more specific and finesse than what I'm currently using, and rated for line between 2 and 4 pounds. I put a 4-pound fluorocarbon on here, and it's matched up with a size 1000 Daiwa Legalis, which I think matches up pretty perfectly with it, not only by color but by weight and size. It balances the rod really well. It's a little windy, but there's your little center of gravity. Now, what really attracted me to this, and it's going to sound stupid, is honestly the handle here, the cork. I saw it posted on a little message board that I frequent, and it really just caught my eye. I had to look it up, and after I looked it up, I found that it has actually some really good reviews. Not too many here from the US, just because it's not available, but over in Asia. It's got a Fuji reel seat along with some Fuji guides. It just looks really nice, feels really good in hand. The action, as you'll see once we get into fishing this thing, it's a little noodly, especially in the tip, so I don't know how it's going to be jigging some larger lures, but really for my purposes, I think it should do okay. So it is a little windy today. I don't know if the 1/64th ounce jig is going to be heavy enough to be able to cast where I need it to, but we're going to give it a shot. And really, yeah, first impressions on this thing in hand, I think it's awesome. Let's see how it performs and how the actual blank performs once we get a lure on there, we're casting it, and we're reeling in some fish. So let's give it a shot and let's see what happens. Alrighty, so we got the 1/64th ounce gold jig head with the kind of gold soft plastic tail. First cast, could have been better. So first cast didn't go as far as I would have liked for this little jig, but we'll keep fishing it. Pretty sensitive. I can even feel the weight of this tiny little jig on the rod, so that's good. Second cast, about the same. So casting wise, first impressions, not as good as I would have hoped, but we'll keep fishing this and let's see if we can get into one. Got a fish on. Oh, that's going to be a nice one. Be tough to get this guy in here. All right, super sensitive rod, but this guy went through all these weeds. He's still pulling a little bit of drag. Let me tighten it up just a tad. He's in all these weeds down here. Oh no, he's off. Oh man, that was a nice fish too. All right, but we got into one. Let's try to do that again and now land this guy. All right, rain's starting to come down a little bit harder. Not the best day to be testing out a new rod. All right, let's see what we can do with this thing. There we go, fish on. Let's land our first fish, Mayan. Little Mayan, but it'll do. We got our first fish on the new Kuying Teton rod. Not the big one that I lost in the beginning, but we'll let this one go. And that's one on the new rod. Alright, I hope the rain passes soon. It doesn't look like it, but I gotta say, I really like the sensitivity of this rod. Felt that strike instantly. It's really good. That first fish I lost, though, that was gonna be a nice one. I think it was probably a decent sized peacock. But we'll keep going. It's raining harder now, but we'll try to get another one. I'm committed at this point. Fish on. What is this? Little largemouth. Alrighty. This rod's super sensitive. Alright, there we go. Fish number 2. It is now officially pouring, but I love the sensitivity of that rod. This little largemouth really put a nice bend into it. Felt every head shake, so we'll let this one go and let's keep going. Fish on. Oh, look at this guy. I even felt this little largie bite. All right, so I've caught a lot of small largemouth, but this is by far the smallest. All right, so action died down a little bit. This thing doesn't cast as poorly as I thought it did in the beginning. It's still not great, but it gets the job done. Had a few more small bites. Nothing big, but I was still able to feel them really, really well, even though the fish were probably super small. But we'll keep making our way around here. I'm sure there's a couple more fish that would love to fall prey to this trout magnet. All right, rain stopped. I had a couple more fish show interest, but no more hits. So fishing is actually a little bit tougher today than what I would have anticipated. Fish on. Little guy. Of course he's in the weeds. Little Mayan. I don't think this rod has the backbone to actually muscle them out. Oh, there we go. A little bit. There we go. Bring them on up here. Alrighty, Mayan number 2. Fish number 4. Still not a monster size, but my biggest concern with this rod, at least one of them, is being able to muscle a fish out of the weeds if I need to. I fish a lot of areas like this that are pretty thick with weeds on the shore. So if this guy was bigger, if the weeds were stronger, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get him out. Fish on. Stay down. Largemouth. Come on up here, guy. All right, largemouth number 3 for the day. I mean, not a monster, but on the ultralight, that's about all we're looking for. So we'll let this one go, and let's keep making our way around here. Hey, so I've got to say, I really like the action that this rod is able to give this little jig head. It's very noodly, like I mentioned earlier, but oh, that's a fish. I'll finish what I was talking about in a second, but here's another largie. All right, another largie about the same size as all the other ones hit at the weirdest time. I was just messing around with that little rod, but hey, whatever works. Alright, so like I was saying, the rod tip is very noodly, very wobbly, not too much power in it. But with the 1/64 ounce jig head, it's perfect because the jig head's not pulling down on the tip too much. I think with a 1/32 ounce it'll be fine, but probably anything higher than that, I think it's going to be too noodly to be able to jig it effectively. But that's not going to be a problem for me because I like fishing smaller lures anyway. So we're getting toward the end of the lake here. I'll probably keep fishing the trout magnet just because it's working, and we'll finish up this little stretch here. Fish on. Another largie. Good size on this one. About the same as the last. Oh, just lost him. He's right there. That's what I get for trying to flip him, but it wasn't huge. Alright, so that's going to do it. Fished the trout magnet the whole day. First kind of review after one day of fishing. I do really like the Kuying Teton. It does have a couple downsides. So like I mentioned, really noodly. For a 1/64 ounce jig head, it's fine. For something a little bit bigger, maybe 1/32, it'll work. But for something a little bit heavier than that, even probably 1/16 and 1/8, it's not going to work. Right? The tip is just too flimsy to fish those kind of heavier jigs effectively. I didn't try any kind of moving baits, but I don't think that'll be a problem. 1/32, 1/16, even 1/8 ounce beetle spins or inline spinners. This thing should handle it pretty well. And I mean, it kind of goes along with what it says, right? So it's a 6-footer. Actually, now that I'm looking at this is weird. So the measurements, there's 2 imperial or conventional and 1 metric. So it says 6 feet, then it says 1 to 4 grams and 2 to 4 pounds, right? That's the line and the weight for the lures. So that's weird, but yeah, so 1/64 ounce, kind of on the lower end. 2 to 4 pound test. I've been using 4 pound test today. It feels really good in hand. It is a really sensitive blank. I was even able to feel like the smallest of the small fish, or every time I hit a little weed line or a piece of grass, that was great. Another concern I have is I don't know how strong the back is. So all the fish I caught today were fairly small. Largest was probably one of those large mouths that was maybe 12, 13, maybe 14 inches. Not really sure. So I'm curious how this will hold up against any kind of bigger fish. That first fish that I hooked into and I lost, I think it was probably a decent sized peacock. That would have been interesting to catch if it didn't get caught up in all these weeds over here. And then there was one more thing that I was going to say, which kind of slipped my mind right now. Can't remember. All right, so first impressions, I do like this rod. Not my favorite that I've ever fished, but I think it's good enough for the kind of fishing I like to do. I like to fish the smaller kind of lures, especially on the ultralight. But like I said, hard to get in the US. It is on Amazon, so I'll leave the link in the description. But you're probably going to be better off buying this from straight from Asia. It'll take a little bit longer for it to get to you, but probably just going to be easier and cheaper. So stay tuned for more videos. I'm sure I'll be using this thing over the next couple months. So I'll be able to give you a better review throughout those videos rather than just of one day of fishing. So hope you guys liked it, and I will see you next time.